Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all. You know, if I knew how many times you've done this, I'd say welcome to probably the 15th at least Gold Star Mother celebration that we've done from our post. Very proud that we were the ones, Eastchester and Tuckahoe, that started this, and we were the only ones at that time. And they're all over the county right now, so it's a great thing. We have one special guest, Nina Balasor. Nina, please stand up for just 1 second. Nina lost her son in that 130 Marine crash a couple of weeks back. Wow. And we're taking her under our wings since. So thank you for coming, Nina. And we hope this makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. Please stand for the national anthem. Gabrielle Adams.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Gabby. That was great. Please remain standing just for one more minute while we have the pledge. And I want to thank you all for nobody kneeling down. And the pledge will be by one of our local Girl Scouts, Daniela Labrini.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. It's my duty to welcome you all. I really want to. We were hoping the other commanders would be with us tonight, but Patrick Murphy is away on duty, and Commander Stowe couldn't make it. So right now, I'd like to call up our chaplain, Vito Pinto, to do the invocation. On cover.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here at the village of Tuckahoe Gold Star Mothers plaque. To honor the Gold Star Mothers, wives and families who have given a loved one in our country's defense of freedom, democracy, and most recently, the war against terrorism post 9/11. Their sacrifices have been great. Their hearts broken, and the void lingers with each passing day. We ask that you keep them always under thy loving care and tender mercy. May their courageous spirit and unselfish patriotism Inspire us, O Lord, to greater service for our beloved country and for Thee as well. May the gold star they wear over their heart be a shining example to all of the need to remember their loved ones and all who sacrificed their lives to preserve the ideals of freedom and democracy that we enjoy daily in our great nation. We join our Gold Star mothers, wives, and families in praying to You, O Heavenly Creator, that the world stand together against evil to attain a righteous and lasting peace. Let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Should have a couple of quotes.
Thank you, Vito. The last year, some of us went down to the Intrepid to honor the fallen from New York. And I had almost begged Vito to read one of my poems, and he practiced it for weeks. And then when he got there, they just didn't have time for us to read 2 poems. So I've asked him to come today and read one of the first poems I wrote, and it's from her breast to our arms. Vito?
From her breast to our arms,
Try to get it done before the train takes off.
from her breast to our arms, her flesh, our blood she gave to Thee. We taught them how to fight and kill, so this land would stay free. She watched them leave our shining shores to where was still unknown. She held our hand, kissed their cheek, prayed they would come home. Our days went on as always, our nights stayed free and calm. Her days were filled with anguish, empty nights with no one in her arm. The dark day came when she was told her child would not come home. Set for our heart where they still live, she would ever be alone. They gave their life to save this land. They stilled the great attack. She gave to us her flesh and blood. We never gave them back. Thank you, Bob.
I mean, I get emotional when somebody else reads my poem, so excuse me. Before I ask Mayor Eklund to come up, I'd just like to thank the police department and fire department for coming here today. They've always supported us in almost everything we do, and we really do appreciate it. And we do try to return the favor. So I'll count on Mayor Eklund and Supervisor Calavita to introduce all the politicians, since I always forget somebody. And I'll ask Mayor Eklund to come up now.
Thank you very much, Commander. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank everyone for coming here on this bright and beautiful morning. Before I say a few words, I just want to take a moment to thank the commanders and the members of the VFW Post 2285, American Legion Post 979 in Eastchester, as well as the A.C. Jeffries VFW Post 2768 right here in Tuckahoe. The men and women from these groups have been working very hard together for a lot of years now to make sure that all of our veterans and their families receive the recognition they most definitely deserve. I want to recognize members of the village board who are here with me. We have the entire village board, our Deputy Mayor Tom Giordano, Trustee Antonio Leo, Trustee Greg Luisi, and we also have with us our veteran trustee Steve Alfasi, who's here. So thank you all for attending. The village board and I want to thank all the members of our military who provide the blanket of freedom we sleep under every night in our tiny little village of Tuckahoe. It's hard to believe, but it was 4 years ago on this very day that I had the honor and privilege to stand right here and officially dedicate the bridge right behind us as the Gold Star Mothers Memorial Bridge. Since that day, there have been hundreds of thousands of cars and people traveling over this bridge. Many times while I'm sitting in my car on this bridge waiting for that traffic light to change, I see folks who are getting off the train, walking on the sidewalk, who pause to read the plaque about who a Gold Star mother is. I want to thank the Village Board of Trustees for their support for all these years in making that happen and for the support of our veterans. Deputy Mayor Tom Giordano, Trustee Greg Luisi, Antonio Leo, and Veteran Trustee Steve Alfasi and I are all partners in our efforts to make sure that we assist our veterans in any way possible. Today is our day to pay tribute to our Gold Star mothers. The mothers who carry on their lives with pride and resolve despite their unthinkable loss. Today we are honoring these Gold Star mothers and their families who carry forward the memories of those willing to lay down their lives for all of us here in Tuckahoe and throughout the United States. As a grateful village, we will never forget their sacrifice, and we will never ever stop in our support of providing assistance in any way we can. Each year on this day, I reflect and think to myself, I really wish we never had the events that have led us here to do this ceremony today. No parent should ever have to bear the burden of outliving their child. The folded flags that they hold dear are what enable ours to wave here on the streets of our community. Their sorrow is immeasurable, and we are forever indebted to them for what they have given for us. So finally, I'd like to read again the words that are etched on the plaque that's on this bridge right out here. And the words are, "Down through the years, countless mothers walked their sons and daughters across this bridge to the platform below and sent them off to defend our country. This bridge is dedicated to the mothers of those who never came home." Thank you all very much for attending this morning.
Now I'll call up our town supervisor, Anthony Calavita.
Be smart this way. Good morning, everyone. I've been asked to mention that after I speak, I'll invite up Congressman Eliot Engel, and he will thereafter invite up our State Senator George Latimer. Also with us today from the town of Eastchester is our Councilman Glenn Bolito, our Judge Fred Salinitro, and our Councilman Luigi Marcocha. Where's Luigi? Right there. Thank you all for joining us. I'd also like to mention that Mayor Mary Marvin is here from the Village of Bronxville. Thank you, Mary, for joining us. Thank you also to our Eastchester and Tuckahoe veterans for putting together this event. It's important that we do this. You will not find any more significant monuments than in Eastchester and Tuckahoe dedicated to Gold Star mothers. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and we owe you for that. You did a great job. And to our Gold Star mothers, let me express our profound honor and respect for you, having to endure the loss of your child as a result of his service for this great nation, protecting each of us. You know, Gold Star Mothers Organization isn't just about having the status of losing a child in active duty. It's also about service, and they serve with grace and with dignity other military families and members of the armed forces. They do a magnificent job. And I've always maintained that if there is no love greater than the love of a mother for a child, there can be no sense of tragedy greater than the loss of that child by that mother when their blue star turns to gold. That being said, I'll ask Congressman Eliot Engel to approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and I'll continue with the tradition of holding the microphone. What a beautiful day. It's almost like God is looking down on us for doing what we're doing today. I want to first of all start by thanking the Gold Star mothers. You know, it is such an honor and a pleasure for me to represent Tuckahoe, Bronxville, Eastchester in the United States Congress. And this is why I'm so proud to represent all of you. These are people who care about community, who care about country, who care about human beings, and know that we are so fortunate to live in this country, the best country the world has ever known. And it is very important for us to honor our Gold Star mothers. I was talking to Nina just a little bit before, and thank you, and thank you for everything you represent. It can't be easy for you to come here, but we appreciate it because it's so important for the world to hear what you have to say. The young men and women who protect us and make sure that we're safe make America great. America's the greatest country. It didn't just happen that way. It happened because there were wonderful people who helped us. Just like during 9/11, we learned about all the first responders and the brave people there. Well, the same thing. You know, I didn't have the honor of knowing your son, but I know of him, and I know that he took this seriously and, you know, wanted to serve. We do all right with young people. We always seem to focus on the young people that go astray, but we don't focus on the wonderful young people that we have. So I want to thank you and the other Gold Star mothers for having the courage to come here. Always know that we will always be with you. We'll always be behind you. If there's anything you need or want, we're with you. We're one. It doesn't matter what political party. It doesn't matter what our views are. We're Americans. And not everyone can say that. That makes me so proud. So thank you for being here, and thank all the mothers, and thank all the veterans who year in and year out remind us that people, we didn't just get this way. It didn't just happen. There are people who sacrificed and made the ultimate sacrifice. And then the veterans who carry this tradition on. It's really just so important to keep doing it. So I'm really just very honored to be a part of this, to say thank you to all the veterans, to say thank you to all our first responders, the fire department, to say thank you to the Gold Star mothers, to say thank you to the people who day in and day out make this part of the world a better place to live. I know we were helpful in getting a flagpole, a bigger flagpole for the post office, and we were hoping that it would be ready today, but it'll be ready soon, and maybe we can have another ceremony, because it's always good to remind ourselves about how a community works and how wonderful it is to be here in this beautiful community. So I again want to thank everybody. I want to tell you that as long as I'm in Congress, I'm going to keep fighting for the veterans. We need to balance our budget, but never, ever, ever on the backs of veterans. We need to keep giving you everything you need, everything you want, and everything you deserve. So I want to thank all the people who made us safe. I want to thank again the Gold Star mothers. And it's my pleasure to call up our state senator, George Latimer.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you, Congressman. It's been said already by Tony and by Steve, but it bears repeating that this VFW post and its brother VFW and American Legion post in this community do a unique job of reminding us all time and time and time again of the things that make us Americans. I've had the privilege of being to the various Veterans Day and Memorial Day services, Holy Mount Cemetery, the decoration of the grave sites, the things that happen in Bronxville as well as in Tuckahoe and Eastchester. And it is really a sign of the community support for American values. But you are the men that make sure that these things happen and that we never forget these individuals today, Gold Star mothers, and in every one of these things. And the community at large, all of you, are to be congratulated for that, because not every community does the same thing that Bronxville and Eastchester and Tuckahoe do. It's not really possible for a man to understand what a woman goes through in childbirth. I watched my wife give birth to our one child. I've watched my daughter grow up and give birth twice. And you have a paternal sense of pride and the old hand out the cigars scenarios, but you, as a guy, did not go through those 9 months. You did not go through that moment of childbirth and that wonder of holding the baby in your arms. Only a woman who's given birth can understand that. And I think Tony made this point, it bears repeating, that it is such a unique bond between mother and child. And I watch in the early stages of life how a mother communicates with the child on a level that, I guess I lost sound. I have a loud voice, I'll just keep going. The unique bond between a mother and a child is on display all the time. And unfortunately, we have 3 or 4 or 5 days where we remember those who made the sacrifice.
But every single day, those mothers think about that sacrifice. Just think about what happens here in Depot Square over the course of a year. We're here in the wintertime. They have a wonderful Winterfest set up. There's an ice skating rink here and all the lights, Tivoli lights. It's a wonderful experience. We have Italian concerts that the Generoso Pope Foundation sponsors here. So many wonderful things happen in this square. Whenever any one of those mothers come to any of those joyous events, what do they see? They see the same things we do, but they also see the young fathers and the young mothers with little children that are dancing around, and they know that they've been deprived of that. There are grandchildren that were never born because their son was lost, and the joy of being a grandparent, which I am now, that's the sacrifice that that Gold Star mother makes every single day. When the anniversary of the birthday of her son comes around, when she remembers, you know, and goes through a picture book, and she remembers the first time he played Little League Baseball, you know, the first time when he graduated high school, how good he looked. All of those things give that mother the constant remembrance of the sacrifice. So I would close with a parable that I remember from church, Christian tradition, which is known quickly as Lazarus at the gate. And if you are of Catholic or any other Christian denomination, you know that the parable talks about the beggar Lazarus who was at the gate of the rich man. And the rich man and his brothers had accumulated wealth beyond belief. And every time they passed by Lazarus, they did nothing for Lazarus. And as he sat there dying of wounds, the dogs would lick his wounds. And then finally the day came when both the rich man died and Lazarus died. And Lazarus went to his reward in heaven. And the rich man was in torture because of the way he lived his life. And the rich man turned and said, "Is there anything that can be done from across this gulf?" And he watched Lazarus, who had suffered on this earth, be comforted in the bosom of Abraham, the father of our religions. And there was nothing that could be done because of the way they lived their lives. But the image of Lazarus being comforted and cared for by Abraham is a comforting feeling. And to the Gold Star mothers, you've lost your son. It's a terrible loss. But he is right now in the bosom of Abraham. He is protected, and he is loved as you loved him during your time on this planet. We believe that. That is our faith. That is what gets us through our day, every day. In America, as Americans, and as God-fearing people of whatever religion we are, every day.
Thank you to all the speakers. I'm looking at them up here with jackets on and feeling really bad. I prayed for a nice day today, but I guess I said one too many prayers. Congressman Engel brought up the flagpole, and I'd just like to mention that. Thank him and the Postmaster Richard Ferrari. But most of all, I got to thank our chaplain Vito Pinto, because if it wasn't for him being such a pain in the rear end, that flagpole might have never been put up. He really stayed with it, and it's been a couple of years since Vito noticed that. So thank you very much, Vito, for being so persistent. I'm going to read a little letter today. Yeah. Sorry? One meeting. Before I read this, it's just a letter that I wrote years ago. It's called A Letter to Mom from the Field. I'd just like to remark one thing about the flag, because there's been a lot of controversy, and maybe our president was a little bit rough the way he said it, but you know, in the revolution and the wars that followed, it was an honor to carry that flag into battle. And men used to fight over it, to be the one to carry it. And if they happened to go down, there would be somebody right behind them that would pick up that flag. I've seen pictures of Marines on Iwo Jima where the flag bearer had fallen. And they were really being wiped out on that beach, stuck with nowhere to go. But I saw another man run up and grab that flag and hold it up. When I see the folded flag handed to a mother, when they're burying her son. I can't hold back the tears. And I see a veteran with no legs get up out of his wheelchair to stand. It hurts. We fought so they would have the right to do what they're doing. But it doesn't hurt any less. I chose this letter to read because when I was in Vietnam, we didn't have cell phones or Wi-Fi, so we couldn't go home like they go today. So the letters were very important. Mail call was probably the highest point of the day when you got a letter or a package from home. It meant a lot. And it meant a lot to us if something happened nearby us to write home as quick as we could to say everything was okay. A lot of the guys there, more than worrying about themselves, worried about what would happen to their family if something happened to them. And we see that today with our mothers and families that have lost a child. That's one reason we do this so much, and we have so much passion to do it, is because some of us came home because somebody else did not. And our families were able to greet us and say hello and love us again because somebody else did not come home. So it is those brothers and sisters that we consider family, and we consider mothers like Nina our mother. And it'll always stay that way in Eastchester and Tuckahoe. This is titled A Letter to Mom from the Field. Although I cannot mail this letter, I need to write you. I only arrived here a few minutes ago, and I feel like I've been here an eternity. Everything and everyone just seems so familiar to me. I don't know where the rest of my unit is, and I can't find out what happened yesterday. The last I remember is that we were under heavy attack and pinned down in the middle of a rice field. We got held up at the last village, giving first aid to 2 children that had been burned the day before. They were flown out to the nearest field hospital, and they should be just fine. I can remember thinking about those kids when a bright light just flashed. It seemed to go right through my skin. I didn't feel anything, but my thoughts changed to you and Dad just before everything went dark. Now I sit here writing a letter that they tell me I cannot mail, and I really don't know why. It's funny, Mom, but I can't feel sad or worry about the war anymore. I know what the war was like. I know I have done things that give me nightmares, but I just can't remember them. I can remember that first moment when I was born. I was so alone and cold. I remember the moment you took me in your arms. The warmth filled my soul. That's the only way I could describe how I feel now, but all the time. Mom, do you remember writing me about Grandpa dying? You said he will be at peace and is going to a better place. Mom, hold on to your hat. He just walked in. I know where I am now, and I remember that flash was a mortar shell. Grandpa wants me to send his love, even though he knows I can't mail this. He's written a few letters himself. Now, Mom, I gotta go. Grandpa, he wants to show me around. He's been bragging about me, and he needs to show me off. Mom, one thing that still lives in my heart is the love I have for you and Dad. I love you both. That will never die. Your loving and so very happy son. Those are hard to read. They're hard to write, but I do them to to make us feel some of the pain that these moms are going through, but at the same time, give them hope that they'll be united someday if they have the faith. And hopefully it will be in a better place, and they'll both be at peace. I'd like to ask Nina to come up, and I'm going to help her place the wreath in front of the monument. Rita, would you help Nina? After we place this, I've asked Mayor Eklund to have the village mount that right over our. You want to put it on the bridge? Put it over there later. Put it over here for now. And that'll be mounted on the fence above the plaque.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving Mr. Foster and everyone that he represents the opportunity to gather. Just a little bit of background. I raised my children on the New Jersey shore, and then recently, having moved to Eastchester, New York, where my mother resided nearby and employment was nearby. I was sort of alone. Then on July 10th, a Marine knocked on my door in Eastchester and had said, you know, we have some news. That news wasn't very good. That news wasn't very good, but for 2 weeks after that, mostly in New Jersey, I was running on adrenaline and not really being in the moment. Then I arrived back home in Eastchester, and I felt like I couldn't be in my own skin. I just went for a walk. And about 50 feet from my home, when I went for this walk, I looked up and I saw this gold star. And not being so much of a military family, we're more corporate, but my son Daniel had a love for military history since he was a little boy. He taught us all about military, but I had not known about Gold Star Mothers. But I had gone downstairs to where Mr. Foster's building is. I had not known then, to a bar. It was kind of scary. Sometimes I saw motorcycles out there. But I went downstairs, I think it was Piper's Kilt, and I had asked if anyone had known about what this gold star was upstairs, and I was given Mr. Bob Foster's phone number, and I walked around the corner so no one saw me tearing. But I sat down, he picked up the phone, and he told me who he was and is, and also what he represents and what Gold Mothers represent. He had asked if I had seen a statue on Eastchester on White Plains Road, and I said no. And I go to Lord and Taylor almost every day. That goes to show that people are never in the moment. Since I had seen that statue, by the way, I appreciate everything around me. I look at architecture, and I don't only look at people's clothing when they walk by in their shoes, but I appreciate everything around me. But with that said, I had gone over to the statue, and there was a poem. There was a statue of a woman holding a little boy, and little boy has a stuffed animal in his hand. And I grieved for the first time at that statue. Who, by the way, the little boy is my son. I go there every day, I write a letter, and I leave it there. But I had called Mr. Foster, and I said, please meet me at the statue. He had an event at Lake Isle with some political figures, and he met me after, and I was, excuse me. I was running on adrenaline a little bit then. I was talking a mile a minute. And look at the statue, and look at the little boy. I can't believe it. And those are the shoes that I bought my little boy, those same type of shoes. And I only wore wedge shoes, and the mom has wedge shoes. And I can't believe the statue's here. I had never noticed it. And the beautiful poem and everything that it represents. And I was going on and on and on about the history of my life. And I said, look at this. Who wrote this poem? And finally, he stopped me and he said, I spearheaded the resurrection of this symbolism, and I wrote the poem. I mean, are there coincidences? With that said, I do often feel alone in Eastchester, but I'm glad that I met Mr. Foster. Thank you very much.
Nina, you'll never be alone in Eastchester and Tuckahoe. Never. I just want to correct you. I did write the poem, but I was only part of the group that spearheaded that monument. That was a long time in coming. And I want to thank all our posts for that. And Supervisor Calavita, he was a councilman when we were originally fighting. He was on the board there, and he knows what we went through. And when he became supervisor, it became real. So thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, veterans of VFW. We really stood together. And these men gave up a lot, time and money for that monument. And I got to say, that is absolutely the most beautiful monument in the country to Gold Star Mothers. None of them have the meaning that that one does. And I got to tell you, none has any more meaning than this one on the bridge, because this was one of the highest per capita killed in action of any local communities. And a lot of mothers crossed that bridge with their children. I think the numbers were well over 130 that never returned. So again, I want to thank you all for coming. And before we do the benediction, I just want to invite you to join us at the quarry for a little brunch. That includes the firemen, the police. Eat with us, you know, break bread with us. That's a family thing, so be part of our family and be there with us. I'm sure Nina's going to come and join us. So right now I'd like to call up our chaplain again for the benediction.
Uncover. Before I do the benediction, I would also like to introduce and remember former Mayor Phil White, who was very instrumental in this plaque that sits behind us. Our Father who art in heaven, as we depart from today's ceremony, having paid reverent tribute to the Gold Star mothers, to wives and families whose loved ones died on behalf of our nation, preserving freedom and democracy around the world. We shall always honor their memory, their heroic deeds, and their supreme sacrifice. Heavenly Father, may we continue to work side by side, serving constructively for the security and progress of America with these women, wives, and families. We are mindful that the gold star over their hearts gleams as evidence of their own faith, their courage, and their high spirit of patriotic devotion. May we all pray together for the hastening of the day when there will be true peace among all your creations, the peace that was truly meant to be. We ask this in your heavenly name. Let us all join and say, Amen.
Amen. Tough to be sure. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this bridge also. You know, this is something that actually was worked on or tried to get to happen before I even joined the PSW post in Eastchester. And just as our first monument, there was a lot of backlash. But I want to thank Mayor Eklund for coming through and making sure this bridge got its proper name. And we'll ask Gabrielle to come up again. God bless America. Please feel free to join her.
Hi guys, I'm Gabby. So I quickly wanted to say something about my uncle, and I'm gonna try not to cry because I was getting emotional when I talk about him, but his name is Jerry DeSantis and he fought in the Vietnam War. So I wanted to dedicate this song to him and all the Gold Star mothers, especially you. I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone and we're all here for you. So join in if you While the storm clouds gather all across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
God bless you, Dad.
That prelude was thanks to Vito Pinto. He gets everybody to do that. I'm glad we finally got it through for you, Vito. Again, thank you all so much for coming. It's been a wonderful day, beautiful weather, and we still got the brunch to go to, so please join us.